Hello and welcome. I'm Maryfrances.
And I'm Jenna.
And together we are Insanely Relative. Hello everyone. Today is June 20th, 2022. We have been doing a sequence on dream jobs and dream roles. And today we are going to be interviewing a longtime friend of Jenna's from the Drexel Hill area. His name is Michael Sammaciccia. And I have a quote before we have Michael come in. I think he'll recognize it. People may not remember the things you do and say, but everyone remembers how you made them feel. And I believe he said that was Maya Angelou, right?
Angelou. Mm-hmm.
So, Michael, are you there?
He's still joining.
He's joining.
Oh, here he is.
So, Michael is the founder and CEO of Afterglow Pictures, LLC. Welcome from California, Michael Sammaciccia.
You get nervous? Did you get nervous?
No.
Okay, I'm here. Hi guys. I've been working on that slide move since early this morning. You look nice. Hi, Maryfrances. Hey, Jenna.
Hi. Good to see you.
You look good as well, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
I am happy to do this. I think we're going to have a fun, entertaining, compelling conversation, and I'm really honored that you asked me to do this. I did want to point out that I have not received Venmo yet. So you need to kind of.
All right.
Let me check it again. Okay, still nothing.
We'll settle that up at the end.
Good. Thank you. But other than that, I'm really happy to be here.
Nice.
We're happy to have you.
So we talked about how we're doing a segment on dream jobs or dream roles. And I asked you to be on because I feel like you are a true picture of what that means to be doing something that you've been dreaming of doing for a very long time, since I've known you, which is, like I said before, sixth grade or seventh grade we met. So
you want me to mention the dance, or are you going to mention the dance?
You can mention the dance. I know I'm not getting away without it, so you can mention the dance.
It just feels like I think about it more than you do. So Maryfrances, Jenna was my first girlfriend in a sense, and the first girl I ever took to a dance.
Okay.
So in my brain, I can still remember the butterflies of that experience on the night. And now I look at my kids and I give these markers of your own life, right? And so when they hit certain grades and certain milestones, and I remember when they hit 8th grade, I was thinking, oh God, this was like going to the dance with Jenna. So anyway.
Aww,
that's
it was
so
a good
sweet.
time. It was a good. I tell my son that too. He's in 7th, going into 8th grade, and I tell him all the time how fun. It was like one of my best years of.
Yeah, it was good for me too. I remember.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've known each other a long time.
And you guys kept in touch all these years.
And then we did, right? Like throughout the years, and pre-cell phones too. Like we would do the occasional landline call, and then then the text messages, and that's nice to reconnect. It's good.
It's big doings, all that.
Yeah, and then you'll hear later as he tells his story about other situations and what.
Who's he? I'm right here.
You'll hear later as Mike tells his story.
So is it Mike or Michael? Are we formal? Are we informal? What do you prefer?
I've heard you fire off a Michael here or there, and that's very professional sounding. But you can go Mike, for instance.
Okay.
But if you go Michael, I'm going to answer still.
Okay. Very
I
good.
mean, what do you generally go by?
Generally, Mike.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Okay.
So start us off. Tell us when it started, when your desire to become a producer, to be involved in movies. Tell us when that started for you.
So again, I think it's interesting. You position this conversation as talking about dreams and pursuing them, and while I'll tell you my story, parts of it have the dream in place, and parts of it were sort of decisions I made that steered me a little bit away from the core dream, or what I thought was going to be my dream. But nonetheless, it's a story that I like to tell because it reminds me of sort of the steps along the way and how we're all still taking them. Mm-hmm. And it begins in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up, which is like, pretty far from Hollywood, and certainly didn't have any connections. And as Jenna can attest, I just loved movies and I messed around with camcorder and making stuff with my, with my brothers and sister, and all that was in me, but I didn't think, because I'm sort of like a logical, practical side, and I never thought that would be a career move. Because again, when you're in Pennsylvania, you don't know how to take those steps. But I got into the best college that I got accepted to, happened to be the most expensive, and also happened to be the most known for its film program, and that was NYU. And it was, I always tell people, while the university was, I'm sure fine, and I was grateful to be at that prestigious place, the cooler experiences were that I was in New York City, and that was my campus. So that was a great sort of way to shed Drexel Hill and any insecurities and try to build confidence by very quickly growing up. And in that city, I tried to take advantage of the resources. So at the school, I took the film classes and I took education courses so that I would graduate with a degree that I could very clearly steer towards a job, which would be a teacher. And then, so I did everything I needed to do to satisfy that requirement. And then I started messing around with film courses, because why not? I was at a great school for that. And then my last semester of college, I got an internship with Robert De Niro. And at the time, I mean, that's part of why I was interested in movies. I just sort of got hooked into his career and his sort of path and filmography. And so it was an interesting kind of moment, because I thought, my God, I know where his office is, and I'm in the city, and the school will give me credit if I land an internship. So I put those pieces together and unbelievably was chosen to be his intern. Did that for a semester, which, to be honest, was a semester full of photocopying and getting coffee. But it was a lot of like exciting moments that just were this guy looking at me and being like, hey, 2 copies.
Can you?
And I would
That's a good impression.
He does a very good
That's
impression.
A good impression.
do that, and I would do that willingly. And I knew that I was reading screenplays on the side, and it became like a really exciting way into the business. That put me on movie sets, that internship. I started PAing, production assistant jobs. And my goal was to try to be a director. So I always thought, I'm going to try to use this stepping stone into production to try to be a director. And very quickly, I think it was standing freezing cold on the Brooklyn Bridge for a Ford truck commercial, telling pedestrians they can't cross, and New Yorkers telling me they were going to anyway.
They're going to do what they want to do.
I realized, I don't know, this is interesting. I don't think this is the road to directing. I think the road to directing is probably to go direct. But nonetheless, let me get out of this 10-degree weather. And I called my internship folks, and I always tell interns this, that an intern can be everything in your story, really, if you make it. And so I to their credit, they told me there was an opening as an assistant inside the building of that same office space, but downstairs at Miramax Films, which at the time Miramax was making some of the biggest movies and most award-winning movies you could have out there. And so I was sort of front lines of that job, which was really sort of trial by fire. And I learned a lot working at a desk from 8 a.m. to, not exaggerating, 11 p.m. So that was my day, was usually that. And then I realized, again, the directing thing was sort of eluding me, and I was like, okay, how do I do this? But timing and like your luck and all these things factor in. My boss started Walden Media, which is a big movie studio that started itself in New York City, and the idea was to make content that had an educational value to it. And so here I was, like this little story so far. I'm a certified school teacher, so I had friends that were in classrooms, and I knew sort of what was popular in school. And there was a book called Holes that was a really big book. All the kids loved it. And someone said to me, it sounds like that would be a perfect movie. And so I read it in Central Park, and I remember getting like 50 pages in and being like, I think this is the perfect Walden Media movie. And it turned out to be the first one they did. And I got to oversee that movie. It was starred Shia LaBeouf and Sigourney Weaver. And I was the executive in charge of that, which was really cool to do right out of the gate. And then I did that on a few different movies for Walden. I was the exec overseeing them. And I realized what was happening. I was sort of going down the path of an executive, and that directing thing was getting away from me. So the dream, to go back to the question, is like, yes, work in the entertainment business. That'd be amazing. Directing something is like another sort of angle to that. And so I wasn't feeling like I was heading that way. So Walden moved to Los Angeles and offered me a relocation to go with the company. And I just had one of those little crossroad moments where you're like, uh-oh, if I say yes to this, it could be great, but I could blink and 5 years will go by. And so I had written a screenplay about a kid in high school who gets the ability to go back and change the mistakes he made in elementary school. And when I wrote this script, Jenna, you could appreciate this. I was thinking, like, you go down the hallway and he turns left and he busts into the cafeteria. Mm-hmm. In my head, I was like, that's right, because if you go down that hall and you turn left, you're in the cafeteria. So I started picturing the movie. And then I thought, well, it'd be great to make it there. And so my sister was a school teacher at the elementary school. So Miss Sammaciccia's brother was coming to town with a project. It was way more legitimate than dude with camera asking to work with children. So I used that resource, and then I pitched the school board on this idea of film club, which is any kid who wants to work on this movie will work in front of the camera or behind it, and page by page we'll chip away at this screenplay. Selfishly, I'll be living out a dream, and they will hopefully learn something along the way and maybe be inspired themselves. And that's exactly what happened. So we made this movie for $6,000. It's all I had in my account to do it with. I learned how to work the camera myself, read the manual. And that's the practical, logistical side of me that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
But I couldn't have a cameraman like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to live at mom and dad's. And then when there's a prom, we're going to go shoot prom. And when they have like a pep rally, we're going to go shoot that. I was running sort of spur of the moment with the school schedule. So I knew I had to be very nimble with that. So I learned how to work the camera. So I wrote, directed, shot, and edited and produced this movie. Which was a good way to learn all those jobs.
Yeah.
And so, but it was great. So we made this movie, and then I moved to LA with the rough cut of that movie, and started getting into film festivals and doing some cool stuff. And nobody famous in it, kids from Drexel Hill. So it was very shocking that we were getting into festivals. And shocking even more was the fact that a company in Florida bought the movie and said they're going to put it on, at the time DVD, and then streaming is now where it is to this day. You can find it on, some streaming platforms. And I always have little pinch me moments of like, wow, we made that. I was in my mom and dad's basement, $6,000, real kids that just were passionate, just like I was. Mm-hmm. And we didn't need any movie stars. So it was cool.
It was good. It was a good movie. It's called Always Will. And what year was that, Mike?
So we filmed that in 2004. School year, it was the 2004 year, and then I think it came out like a year and a half later.
Okay.
So every now and then, like I'll see something on the internet, or I'll meet with somebody and they'll say, you directed a movie, like you're an executive that knows how to do that. Mm-hmm. Which has served me really well, and I'm really proud of that movie because of the way we pulled it off. And I just mentioned being the executive. What happened next was I made a decision to take a job at Nickelodeon, and I made this decision because I it was time to start paying the bills and owning up to like responsibilities, cutting free of mom and dad's basement in other ways. And I took this job, and it was interesting because I didn't have any experience with like TV or that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to do a movie division that was going to make movies a little cheaper than Holes and certainly more expensive than Always Will. So right in the middle of those two budgets, and I seemed to be a good fit for that. And then like you try to do, it was a big corporate job, and I sort of dodged all the hiccups and all the like sort of potential missteps, and somehow, some way was promoted up to overseeing all of Nickelodeon's movies and TV shows for the company, which was cool. And, I started having kids. So we had like babies that or toddlers that were little kids, all while I was sort of bringing them to Nickelodeon premieres. And it was
that
cool.
Had to be so exciting for them.
When the star of a Nick show is like, hey, Mike, your kid's just like, Dad, you made it. and I'm sort of sure I was thinking I wanted to make another movie at some point. That's still something I play around with in my mind, but this was a good path to go on. Best of all worlds, really, to work in the entertainment business and to support a family. So did that, blinked my eyes, and it was 10 plus years. And so I wanted to spin all those experiences into my own thing. So I had this idea, nothing breakthrough, but just after the glow of the screen fades, whatever screen you're watching it on, there's this promise that we'll give, which is like the last 5 minutes will leave you with something residual and lasting. In some sort of, as a family, you can walk away from that experience and talk about it and maybe bring it up tomorrow, as opposed to just popcorn entertainment that can sometimes be mindless, right? A lot of kids' entertainment is that. So this idea that after the glow fades just got me thinking about Afterglow Pictures as a company, and that's what I put together. And just as I did it, I got an opportunity to go produce a movie with Sophie Turner, who's the star of Game of Thrones. So I had to put the brakes on Afterglow for a moment just to go try this new left turn on my resume, which was exciting, and I did. went to Latvia and Italy. Made this
Wow.
movie, and it was really cool. And I'm the Nickelodeon guy. Next thing I'm on a mountain being like, "Is that chopper gonna clear?" So it's like, so I don't know how that happened, but it was a great experience. And then returned my focus to Afterglow Pictures, and then CNN was talking about this virus. And I was like, "I'm sorry, what's happening?" So everybody's got the story of when that happened, and for me, the pandemic was sort of the beginning of me trying to break into my own thing. And that's been a challenge to this moment, 2 years into this. And I have a handful of projects across a bunch of different companies. And the way it works is you sort of like focus on these projects and get them into fighting shape. And when they're ready enough and they're good enough, that company will hopefully greenlight it, which means go make it. And that's what I used to do at Nickelodeon. I used to sort of like oversee the projects. And when they were ready, I would pitch them to the bigger decision makers, and then I would go up to Vancouver, it typically was, and I would make these movies. And so now I'm doing that, but without the green light power of my old job, but just little old me, and trying to get people to look at these projects and get them on their feet. And it's been frustrating, but certain days have been really rewarding as well. And I've got, over 25 different projects kicking around at different stages and hoping to get them made.
That's exciting.
And so here I sit with my own sort of company, and seeing what the next part of the story is.
So a few questions. What type of genre do you want to stay in? Like, do you have a specific genre, or do you like to go across the board in different? Because you mentioned you were with the family side of it with Nickelodeon.
I'm glad you asked that, because I didn't want to. It's a little bit of a struggle, because people assume that I'm the Nickelodeon guy, and I was for so long. So I'm trying to make movies that like the three of us could watch without having to have a kid sitting next to us.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And think back on movies that we came up on, like Back to the Future, or Big, or Princess Bride, or most recently a movie called Wonder. I don't know if you guys saw.
Yeah,
Wonder.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
But these are movies that are not big ticket, expensive, visual effects spectacles, but they're entertaining on a conceptual level to everybody in the family, right? So that's sort of been my focus, to try to find that. In the industry, they call it four quadrant, which is to say the two parents and like two different, boy and girl children. And so that's been a pursuit of mine, to try to find those four quadrant movies. And in doing that, I come across projects that are just have that sort of afterglow promise to them. The end of the story feels like really special and interesting to me. And so I've been grabbing those as well, that I necessarily wouldn't put in front of every family member. But they feed into that notion that the entertainment could leave you hanging with something more.
Nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah, this crazy world needs more of that. I think more of that. Let's watch as a family and be able to, even if you learn a lesson from it or you can discuss something from it, I think that's been lost in Hollywood for a long time.
Yes, so that's been my focus, and so so it's been a good ride so far. And how long can I do this for? That's what you're both wondering. How does he pay the bills? Well, that's too personal. No,
I wasn't going to ask that. Actually, I was going to ask. I know you have daughters. So are they interested in acting, or?
Yes, actually, they. As much as I was thinking maybe they would have nothing to do with this business, that story I told you guys about bringing them to those Nickelodeon sets might have done some damage, because my two oldest definitely are interested in the arts, acting and singing, and my littlest is not certainly she's a movie watcher, but she has not expressed any desire to go try to be in that business.
Okay.
As we know, it's a tough haul, because I ended up in my parents' basement for that decision. And so I always think, all right, careful. That could have them coming back.
That it could, definitely. Times 3, right? Times 3.
So we'll see, but it's a little early to know for sure.
Now, your parents growing up, I know this, but were they supportive to your dream and what you wanted to do, or were they like, we feel like you should do this? Like, did they have suggestions for you, or were they pretty much
to this day, so grateful for them. They're just one of those parents you hope everybody has, which is support from the get-go. And in my story, I mean, I always tell this part of it. It's like, my parents used to say, listen, You always have a home. The door is always open for you. Okay, Michael? And Maryfrances, maybe they would drop a Michael in that moment.
Right.
Gravity. And I don't think they literally meant like I show up and live in the basement like I did to Make Always Will, but I did that. So a testament to their promise that the door was open. And so, yeah, they've always been great. And to this day, they're like, sometimes I call them and I'll have like a disheartening day. And they'll say like, well, you got to stick with that though, because that sounds very promising, as opposed to go get a 9-to-5 job, you know? So I'm sure when they hang up the phone, they're like, he should get a 9-to-5 job.
Fantastic.
But no, they've been great.
That's really, to have that kind of support system
absolutely.
is fantastic. I believe mine, they told me don't let the door hit you in the you know what. Once you leave, you're gone. Now look at me.
I didn't get that, but that's probably, I probably would have got the go get a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Just thinking on the.
What about you guys, as far as the story that I just told? Did you have crossroads moments where you were like, this is the dream, I'm going to kick it aside and go this way instead of that way right now? Is there any that stand out like big crossroads?
Yeah, like you did, because you wanted to be a teacher and you did the
Yeah,
school.
so I wanted to be a teacher. When I was young, that's all I ever wanted to be, was a teacher. And then I became a teacher, a preschool teacher, and I had my own preschool, which was a dream of mine to have my own, because I had certain ways I wanted to do things that you couldn't do in a large establishment. You know, I didn't want the kids to be numbers. I wanted them to have like a whole learning experience and not just, you know, bring kids in because I have to make overhead. You know, I didn't want that to be the case. So I did do that for a short time, and then sadly we moved, and it was in our home, and I had to shut it down. So there, I think, you know, I've talked to you about this before, where there was a sort of regret there, like resentment, I'd say, like, oh, you know, I didn't get to do it long enough. I didn't fulfill it. But then after I start to think about it, I'm like, well, I did. I started it from ground up. I turned we had like a formal living room, dining room area, and I turned that into a preschool room. And I love decorating and design and art. So that was just super fun for me to put the centers together and, you know, have the kids moving in a certain way in the room. And so that, yes, I really do feel like I succeeded at that dream. And then I had my son. Well, he was already born, but then he got older, and my dreams changed. You know, as I got older, now he's older, he's 13, and it's like, I don't really want to be a teacher because of some of the things that are going on in the world today. I just don't think that it aligns with me and how I would be in the environment. So I now have other dreams, and, you know, just little personal projects that I do here and there. And the podcast with my aunt, it came from us talking during the pandemic, every day in the morning. And finally we were like, we could probably help people. Like, you know, we're supporting each other every day.
It's
every
7 o'clock
day.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Every morning we would talk for at least an hour.
Yes.
And we had said, you know, we're kind of finding that calm in each other. If we could do that for one person, maybe we should put ourselves out there, and even if they laugh at us as opposed to with us,
which I'm sure they're laughing at us. Yeah.
Whatever, who cares? But
you did it. It's great. And like, to your point, Jenna, it's like the worst part of that story would have been, and I never tried, right? Like I never did put a classroom together and make that happen. And I'm always going to think about, so, and I can relate, because I don't know where my head would be if I was sitting here thinking and I was able to say, I never directed a movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Never did that thing that sort of launched me into the entertainment business in the first place. And to your point, again, I see what the life of a director is, and all the traveling and all the sort of like away from the family. And that didn't, as you said, align with my needs at the time. So maybe I'm itching a little more towards that now that the kids are getting older. And I, between the three of us, need to get out of my house. I'm being serious right now. I need to get out of there.
I feel like they're going to watch this.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. No, and I love them. Hi, guys. Hey, everybody. We will edit that. No,
so you're surrounded by all women, and we're surrounded by all men.
Yes, we are. Yes.
So we get it.
We feel
we
it.
Understand.
We feel you on that topic. Trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think too, that I'm more of a dreamer, and my husband's a realist. So when we met, I was like, "Ooh, I don't know. He's probably going to be like, oh, here she comes with one of her harebrained ideas again." But he's been pretty supportive of all of my my ideas and plans, and mostly because I am maybe because of the way I was brought up and had to do a lot of things on my own. Growing up, I'm very much a self-starter. So if I have an idea, I'm going to make it happen, regardless if you tell me it's not going to work, right? Like I'm very headstrong, and I'm very like, I'm going to try it because, like you said, I don't want to have to say later that I didn't try it.
Yeah, podcast is a great example. Here you sit on a podcast.
Yeah,
You guys could have just spoken about how cool that would have been, but you didn't.
Right.
You took it to the next step, and that's great. It's really admirable.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get famous someday. Now, what's yours? I know your dreams have changed over the years as well, but
yeah, I didn't have a lot of huge aspirations. I was always kind of a realist because of the way I was raised. So it was like, I'm going to get a job. I want to be a legal secretary, not an attorney. I wanted to be a legal secretary. Okay.
But you know what? You didn't want to deal with all the nonsense.
I guess.
So that's good.
I guess. So while I didn't do that, I worked at the Bar Association, and I became the managing editor of the legal newspaper. So that was something that I had never thought. And I was doing all that when I was 19 years old. So that was interesting. And then, I met my husband, and he has a business. So I stayed home, raised our children, ran the business with him. And, I would love to have a cooking show. I love to cook and feed people, and still on the horizon. I can,
That's the next move. I get it. You're going to have a cooking show. Right?
Yeah. I got my sous chef right here. She's going to chop everything.
And what I love about you is you don't same thing. Like she's 7 years older than me. We're very close in age. She's my aunt, but she's same thing. It's not like, oh, I'm too old, or I can't do that, or, that ship has sailed. You're very open and like, you know what? Just like with the podcast, somebody else might have been like, no, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? I don't want to do that. But you are so open to the ideas, and that's why we get along so well.
And I joined a billiards league. I mean,
She's
really
a good time. She's a good time.
Seriously, we were just at a casino for the World
Valley Forge
tournament to see if we could go to Vegas. Now, we did not win, but we held our own for a little while. But yeah, I joined a billiards team, and I'm having a great time learning how to play pool.
That's great.
So I'm about just trying to put good out in the world and just being happy and joyful. Because I've spent way too many years of not being as joyous as I could be.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's like it's try to get joy out of what you do is the end game, right?
Yeah. And there's always going to be people that are going to try to stop you, right? Like along your way, they're going to be like,
for example, when we hang up the Zoom, I am going to get 5 emails that tell me no on projects. No question. Like I'll hang up with you guys and I'll go to my email and there'll be like 5 no's about that project. Like, that doesn't work. That's all right, because that's the deal. Like you said, it's just that's what happens. You get like for all of those no's, it sort of like builds you up towards that yes.
It makes the yes that much more
sure
enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the game. It's like
so I want you to explain, because you are so funny with this. I want you to explain your first meeting with Robert De Niro.
Okay. First time I actually had interaction with him.
You actually met him face to face. What did he say to you? What was his?
It was a bit of what I did earlier. It was like the elevator doors opened, and we were on like the top floor. So whenever that elevator opened, it was either, the staff members or him. And since the staff members were all at their desks, and I heard the ding of the elevator, I knew this day would be the day that I interact with him. The interaction was as follows: I'm De Niro. You guys are me.
Okay.
The chair outside the elevator. I think I was reading a script, and he walked out of the elevator, and I looked up and I met him in the eye, and I just froze, and he went like this. Hey, don't. And he walked away, and I was like, "Hi, how are you?" I went through a phrase of like pleasantry, and I was like, "No, don't even say anymore." And then that grew to like, "Are you you're with us? You're with us?" And I said, "Yeah. Can you make bring this to the I'm like the photocopier?" He's like, yeah, make like 2 copies or yeah, 2, 3. And then okay. And then I went, and then I remember no cell phones. I couldn't wait to get on my lunch break because then I would go to the payphone. I remember I called my dad and I was like,
Aw.
"We've had interaction, Dad." He's like, "Is he going to let you direct?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. He asked me to make photocopies." And then I asked him how many, and then he said like 2. My dad would get like, I remember it was kind of quiet. He was like, and then so you did that? I'm like, and then I did that, and then I gave him those copies. And then it was
That's
like,
great.
and we went to NYU for this, right? And I said yes, but
And I paid how much for this interaction?
okay. And we are currently still paying. Why? And I said, yeah, but from there it grew into slightly more interactions because he was familiar with me. And I remember he had his kids in one day, and so I was going to play time with them, and then the visitors were crazy. The celebrities that were coming from meetings, I would just one after the other. That was kind of cool to see. And then if I ever ran into the guy to this day, he wouldn't remember me, but I would say it's because of that internship that a catalyst occurred, and I went from there to the production on sets, and then that landed me back at Miramax, and then that landed me at Walden, and then I made my own movie. I mean, it all spun from there. So, and then I'm sure if I told him that, he would probably just look at me and go, "Nice."
So not a man of many words.
Not, as you see in interviews and stuff. So but that was really cool. So I'm still shocked that I don't know how I got that gig, because even then there was no resume process. It was me talking to the security guard, asking how you get an internship in this building.
Right.
And ingenuity at the time, right? That's like sort of how we came up. And now kids today, I think it's handed to them far too easily. Yeah, but we'll see.
Confidence. I don't know if you follow Mel Robbins at all, but I listen to her, and she talks about that all the time, about how if you don't take that step, that one step, it could one decision can make your life totally different. You now missed it, so you missed the opportunity. And she talks about it all the time, and it's funny because there's times where I'll be like, even just in my day, like I'll tell you, I'm like, I really have so much to do today, and I really should start now and get it done. And she just goes, just do it. And I'm like, right, just do it. Like, just start. Right. So but you have to have a certain personality. There are a lot of people that would have never walked into that building.
Right.
And never.
And I think about the Drexel Hill part of it too. I was scared. It was definitely, when you live 18 years of your life in one place, it's a scary little jump to go from suburbia to Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting choice. And I'm hoping my girls aren't deterred by geography.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We're starting those conversations now, which is scary.
You could have them all over the world for all you know.
For all I know, yeah. And hopefully at the most inexpensive schools. Coming from the guy who dragged my...
Right. Oh my goodness. Right. Now, who is your, biggest star that you met that you were just in awe? Like, who is it?
Biggest star in my career? Let's see. I met Madonna once, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
And that was kind of cool. And that was a moment I remember thinking, don't, she knows she's Madonna, but don't confirm that. And I remember thinking, this is the voice in my head. I was like, so I just played it because it was at a party and she came to the door and I opened the door and she was there. And I remember being like, hey, come on. She was like, hi, is so-and-so? And I was like, yes, come on in. Like, I just pretended I didn't know who she was. And I'm thinking, I know, just on a demographic level. You can see my age. I came up, know me. But, so anyway, that was pretty big.
Yeah.
But to work with Sigourney Weaver must have been interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was on that movie. That was great. And that was his first movie. Shia LaBeouf became like a big actor, off of that. And so it was great. But there was a lot of weird moments in that because it was really fresh for me. Big job and very new job, and on the younger side doing it. And I remember thinking, God, I'm the guy who's like gonna answer these questions and sort of let them do their jobs, and they're looking for permission, and because I was the executive in charge of the whole thing.
Right.
And that's sort of got in my head too. I thought, I got to go make a movie, because this executive thing where we're telling others how to do it, and most executives have never even tried it. Most executives never even been on a set or written something or directed something, or any lived and breathed the other side of the fence. And so that sort of was motivation for me too. That executive thing bothered me, and still does to this day when I interact with executives who I can tell just sort of wrote an assistant job into their current job authority.
Was Holes done? Was that out in the middle of the desert? Because that's what it looked like.
Yeah. Parts. It was all shot in California, but it was different areas. The deserts are up north.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. That was my first trip to LA too, because remember that company was in New York City at the time. So.
Right.
And I remember I landed in Los Angeles and took a car up towards the desert, not really knowing where I was. And I was like, so where's the Hollywood sign? Like, no, you're not even near Hollywood right now. I was like, oh, okay. So I think back on that. And sometimes I see those locations in my travels today, out here. And I think back, oh my God, I remember driving down that road, or, when I first came out here.
Wow.
It's neat that you talked about how you visualized, though, when you were writing your movie, and how, you visualized in the school and that you had to turn a certain way to go to the cafeteria. Because we talk about visualization a lot, and how, you have to manifest things by seeing it in your head and then making it happen.
Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah, I do that. Maybe I do it subconsciously. I'm constantly picturing it, Like I pictured sliding into this podcast today, and I did. I slid.
And you did.
But no, it's been helpful, I think. And sometimes I get cocky, like, I'm going to picture that. I'll have a lottery ticket, please.
Yeah. Join the club on that one.
Yeah. Picture it, Maryfrances, but not always,
Right.
So thanks for this, guys. I don't want to take up too much, but I hope we covered all the sort of aspects of the question.
And we just really appreciate that, because as our viewers know, we had some audio issues last time.
How do the viewers know this already?
What's that?
How do the viewers know this? I think you just let it out of the bag.
No, we were honest, because we told them we were going to have you on a certain date, and that to stay tuned for it. And so then we had to let people know that we had some technical difficulties, and to stay tuned, and that you were very patient.
Do you guys think they're wondering if we repeated similar jokes, and like the chair slide?
Oh.
Do that the first time? No, I didn't.
No.
That was an improv that happened.
That was improv, yes.
Yes, all of it was improv.
But I think it's fitting that this is take 2.
Yes, she is, right? And I'm really I'm honored that this is your first on-camera one, right?
Yes.
You pushed us out of our
comfort zone. But look, here we are.
I hope you do more of them. It's nice energy, and you guys are really good at your job. So you got to keep going.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. So thanks so much for being on and talking about your journey. And you have so many more years to, continue that journey. Yeah. And I hope you get some yeses in your email. I'll be hoping for that.
I see them. I see yeses in your email.
Yes. Hold on a second. No. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, this one's just a straight up, we're not interested. Oh, this one says, don't ever bother us again. Maryfrances, stop picturing what you're picturing. It's ruining it.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
All right, guys.
Oh. Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm going to read the whole part of that quote from Always Will that it really resonated with me, and I had told you about it. So I'm going to read that after we say bye to you, and thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to slide out, okay?
All right.
Good seeing you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you, Mike. So that was Michael Sammaciccia, longtime friend of Jenna's. Yes. Great guy. So fun.
Very funny.
So in the movie that he had done, this was part of the quote, but it's the full quote. Things happen, and when they do, you gotta let them. What may seem like a big deal at the time may only just be wet cement. It's okay to let your feet touch the ground, because people may not remember the things you do and say, but everyone remembers how you made them feel. And we think that that is incredibly important to remember and to go through your day with. And I
think it goes along with Mike's comment with why he named his company Afterglow.
Yeah.
because he wants to leave, wants it to resonate with them after they leave the screen.
Right.
So,
And that really did.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted to
It
use
did.
that.
It did.
So with that, we hope everyone has a beautiful week.
Yes.
And
Namaste.
Namaste.